Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. This episode was going to cover everything about the old gods, but it turns out that, surprisingly, this topic is absolutely ginormous. So instead, I'm going to split this into 3 parts. This is part 1, and I'll be focusing on the history of the old gods. Part 2 will focus more on their nature, meaning what they truly are, how they work, that kind of thing. And then part 3 will mainly focus on their blighted counterparts, the archdemons. Oh, and I should mention that because this topic is so big, I'm probably missing something. So let's get started. Now, I think we should first do a quick recap of what we've already been told. The scholars of Thedas believed the old gods, always considered to take the form of dragons, had been long imprisoned deep underground when they contacted the people of Tevinter through dreams. They then tricked the people of ancient Tevinter into worshipping them as gods. Eventually, they instructed the Magisters Sidereal to break into the Golden City. That unleashed the Blight, the Magisters were twisted into Darkspawn, and now the old gods emit the calling, twisted music that only tainted creatures can hear. When the Darkspawn finally find an old god, it is awakened from its ancient slumber and becomes infected with the Blight, which converts it into an archdemon. The archdemon is then able to command the Darkspawn and leads them in an attack to completely destroy the world. According to the Chant of Light, the old gods were really just demons who resented the Maker when he created mortals. They then tricked the mortals into believing they were the true gods, for which the Maker imprisoned them deep underground. But evidently that did not stop them from reaching out through dreams. We know that the Chant of Light isn't always completely accurate, but it usually at least has the main idea right. And there may be something to this theory. Let's remember, in Jaws of Hakon we see that dragons can be possessed, and Hakon specifically was worshipped as a god by the Adaar and even seemed to believe that himself. So the old gods being powerful demons that possessed dragons is totally plausible, but it is certainly not the only explanation. Now, the Chant of Light claims it was the Maker himself who imprisoned them deep underground. While I personally have my own theory about the Maker, I also have my own theory about this. The comics reveal a great deal about dragons. Particularly in the Silent Grove, Yavanna, another daughter of Flemeth and the Antivan Witch of the Wilds, tells of a time before the Veil that dragons ruled the skies. She also says that the blood of dragons is the blood of the world, but I think she may have said that just because it sounded cool. Regardless, here's my theory. Remember when Solas talks about the Evanuris rise to power?
The Evanuris were elven mages. How did they come to be remembered as gods?
Slowly. It started with a war. War breeds fear. Fear breeds a desire for simplicity. Good and evil, right and wrong, chains of command. After the war ended, generals became respected elders, then kings, finally gods. The Evanuris.
It started with a war. Against whom? I think it was the old gods. It's possible that it was actually against the Forgotten Ones, but most, if not all, the tales about them, including one told by Falasan, an ancient elf, speak of the Forgotten Ones as existing at the same time that the Evanuris were in power as gods. Then there's Gelderon's claim, found in the Frostback Basin. This also indicates that the Evanuris were already well established as supreme rulers at the time that the Forgotten Ones existed. The same could be said about the Titans. Writing found in the Temple of Mythal and in the Deep Roads during Trespassers seem to claim that the Evanuris fought the Titans as gods. So the process of elimination supports the idea that the war was fought against the old gods, since there's no lore connecting them to the Evanuris.
Nothing in any lore connects my people to the old god dragons who became archdemons.
But of course, it's possible that the elves were just fighting themselves, or something else entirely, and the old gods had nothing to do with any of it. But let's remember that the old gods are imprisoned deep underground, not merely accessible by the deep roads. Why? Why would they be down there at all, and what would be keeping them down there? In the Silent Grove, it's revealed that great dragons, and presumably the female high dragons, are able to enter a form of hibernation and live for centuries. Whatever else they are, it definitely seems that the old gods inhabit the bodies of dragons. So they would theoretically be able to do the same. But again, why are they underground? It sounds to me like they are imprisoned within Titans, considering that the deep roads aren't even close to their prisons. If they were, they certainly would have all been awakened by now. It takes centuries of endless digging to get to them. With that considered, that means their imprisonment would have required a tunnel to be dug to the prison, and then all the rock shifted back into place in order to seal them in. The Elves could have done this relatively easily, considering that they were immortal at the time and the veil hadn't yet been drawn, so their magic would have made it much easier. That said, it seems more likely to me that the Titans allowed the old gods to be imprisoned within their bodies. Extremely far from the deep roads, all that stone being shifted to allow it. I think, at the very least, it would have been a bargain. Like the Evaneris made a deal with the Titans to imprison the old gods, before the Evaneris began killing them. I feel like a bargain like that would have been necessary in any event, since I don't think the Titans would have just been cool with the Elves digging into their bodies to trap a powerful dragon. It's also worth noting that an old god's former prison was found beneath Hedron Tig, meaning it was likely in the body of the same Titan from the Descent. So, quick recap. The theory here is that the old gods fought the ancient elves before the Evaneris were in power. The old gods couldn't be killed for some reason, so the elves imprisoned them deep within the bodies of Titans, who are now asleep or comatose or something. This is supported by the fact that the Forgotten Ones hadn't yet risen at the time of the war, nor were the Evaneris yet fighting the Titans. And other than the Maker himself, how else would they have been imprisoned except by the Titans, or at least their approval? Okay, so I think that's where I should end this episode. Like I said, this topic is just way too big to cover all at once. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, Tala Nadas.